What is up, everyone? And thank you for tuning in to Don't Say the F Word, Pro Wrestling and Combat Sports Podcast, where we do not use the F word whenever we talk about professional wrestling. Shouldn't let your friends use it either. It's Saturday, it's Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Whatever you celebrate, enjoy your time off if you got it. We're coming off of Friday Night Smackdown, their holiday go home show. We had AEW Rampage last night, and I haven't done a show since Dynamite. So, gonna kind of cover a lot of things. I got pen and paper notes, I got digital notes, and none of it's really organized because I got ADHD, so my brain don't really work in an organized way. So, I want to talk a little bit about last night's SmackDown to kind of talk more about next week's SmackDown. Last night's SmackDown was recorded last week. It wasn't a live show, but we got a very, just a very passionate promo from Sami Zayn. I guess really more so from Sami than any other member of the Bloodline. There were a lot of things that he did in that promo that I really enjoyed. I liked the passion in what he was saying, but the key thing for me was how Sami ducked between the ropes to come to kind of the outside of the ropes, to be more impactful in what he was saying, and to just kind of showcase his aggression there. I thought that was pretty cool. Really felt like that was a good way to showcase Sami. And if we look at the tag match of Sami and Roman versus Cena and Kevin Owens, I think it'll be interesting to see the story that they tell. If it's Sami gets the victory or Roman takes the loss. I kind of think it's going one of those two ways, right? It's Sami's either going to get the victory to add momentum to Sami Zayn's character and kind of look at what we're going to do with him in the future. If Sami pins John Cena, that's a lot of bragging rights for Sami, right? I mean, Sami getting a victory over Cena in that matchup really gives something for Sami to kind of gloat about and become egotistical if that's the route we're going to go for the turn of the Bloodline on Sami or Sami on the Bloodline, right? A few days ago, my daughter asked me how much coffee I drink. This much coffee. I drink a lot of coffee. If Roman gets pinned by Cena, it also gives some leverage to cracks in the Tribal Chiefs Foundation, and we can kind of look to build that aggressive level in the Bloodline and the attacks backstage and doing kind of the NWO type of thing. I hate to have that be the reference point because it's also kind of a Horseman kind of thing, kind of a Minnesota Wrecking Crew kind of thing. But, I mean, all the big established factions, they will all kind of do that kind of thing, right? Just kind of attacking whoever they want because they call all the shots. And the Bloodline should really be working that angle. We also had Bray Wyatt finally getting physical last night. I feel like it's been like a weird return for Bray Wyatt. I haven't disliked it to the degree that a lot of people, well, I don't want to say a lot, but I've seen some, subsections of internet wrestling communities where people aren't very happy with Bray's return. And I understand wanting it to be like a monumental thing and him to have gotten physical right away. I do think they've used it as a good way to get people kind of liking and being interested in LA Knight. I think it's been very good for LA Knight. I think the delayed physicality is probably injury oriented, and we have seen Bray with the knee brace on. So I think there's probably some reasoning behind Bray not getting too physical in the show since his return. I understand people feeling like it should have been more impactful. I don't know what I would call it necessarily underwhelming. I think it's just a very slow burning story. I think once we once things get moving along, I don't think there will be a stopping point. So I think it's taking its time and letting it build. I think is worthwhile. I do think the way they've done it, it does give LA Knight the opportunity to be the only person to come out with a positive from a Bray Wyatt feud. Since the incarnation of the Fiend, anyone who's had a feud with Bray has come out worse, except for maybe Orton. But I think Orton's kind of untouchable for that kind of a thing to really negatively impact him. I don't think it did Seth any favors. Hell, I think it damaged the Hell in a Cell gimmick, to be honest. But him getting physical, attacking the cameraman, kind of interesting way to go about it. I don't know really where that moves to. Is it something's controlling him? I would imagine that's the angle we're going to go with. Last night we also had Rey Mysterio defeat Angel Garza with I wonder what Rey's plans are the next few years, because he's not. I love Rey Mysterio. I think he's one of the best. He's the best. He's one of the best wrestlers ever, right? I mean, without question, the most notable luchador. I don't know what they're going to do with him with the Karrion Kross idea of them working a program together. Do you just have Kross just murder Rey because you got to figure out some way to reestablish him as being strong, because through the Drew McIntyre thing, he didn't come off looking particularly strong at all. I mean, his wife had to assist him in every match against Drew, so you kind of killed a little bit of the guy being a killer. We had Braun Strowman and Ricochet defeat Imperium in a Miracle on 34th Street fight. For a very long time, I've always enjoyed the Miracle on 34th Street fights. It's a gimmicky match on a holiday show. It's really kind of a throwaway. It's meant to be fun and silly, and it's exactly what it always is. I feel like it's always done to just be enjoyable. I can never find fault in it, as ridiculous as they may be at times. I enjoy that ridiculousness in my pro wrestling. I thought they put together a great match. I thought it was very enjoyable. I always love it. I enjoyed the New Day as the Nutcrackers, literally being Nutcrackers. Thought that was pretty funny. I think, let me see, I have a note here of the card for next week, I believe. I know I touched on the tag match. It's going to be of the most importance. Yeah, we have, of course, we have Lacey Evans reporting to duty. We have Sheamus versus Solo Sikoa, so you know that's going to be a banger of a match. I would imagine that match will be given a lot of time and be given the ability to be pretty hard-hitting, which would be really good. I think it's a good go-home Smackdown to have those two guys together. I like that matchup. We're going to have Ronda Rousey versus Raquel Rodriguez for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I feel like it would be a good time to pull the trigger on taking the belt off Ronda, but I would imagine that's not going to happen until it's with Shayna Baszler. I think they'll probably maybe start building toward those two breaking up already. So maybe they could have a worker program at Rumble to carry it on until they work a program at Rumble, and then you have Shayna win Rumble to go after Ronda's title, something like that. But really just, I don't know. I feel the Ronda Rousey and WWE thing has always been kind of a miss for me. A lot of people have liked her initial run, and I don't know. I don't know if that was a work or a shoot, but really anti-wrestling fans kind of a stance, and turned a lot of people off, brought her back as a babyface, didn't work, put her back as a heel, but then have her doing regular old heel shtick stuff, and they don't really need to. She could really just be herself and kind of be the biggest heel. So, I don't know, maybe they'll pull the trigger and do something now to start building up toward the Shayna-Ronda feud. I think it's probably a little too early, but I don't think it's too early to take a belt off of Ronda, so I don't know. And then, of course, we have the return of John Cena tagging with Kevin Owens to face the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn. I think this is just an opportunity to continue building the Sami story, right? and I think it's going to be done well. I think these guys are all going to put together a good match. It's a good way to tie Cena into everything. And KO can always turn on Cena in the match too. It's KO; they can do it. So I'm actually I'm surprisingly really excited for John Cena to come back and just be involved in a tag match with minimal build. But I'm curious because I want to see where the story goes. And are we building towards Cena in the Rumble, then Cena at Mania? I think we will get Cena at the Rumble. I think we probably have Cena in the Rumble match. Maybe Theory eliminates Cena to get their match at Mania. I'd hope that whoever eliminates Cena gets the Cena match at Mania, and I hope it's Theory. I just think that'd be a good moment for him. Unless it's Sammy. I mean, either opportunity. Theory eliminates Cena at Mania to get the match at Mania to win, or Sammy eliminates Cena at Rumble, and then Sammy gets the Cena match at Mania. Sammy goes over Cena at Mania, continue building Sammy's ego. See if that's the catalyst for everything. We also Rampage last night. It was recorded on Wednesday, but we did have kind of the big build toward Rampage was the $300,000 Three Kings Christmas Casino Battle Royal. Whew, that might be the longest title for a match. Let me hit that again. The $300,000 Three Kings Christmas Casino Battle Royale. And it was like a tag battle royal to win $300,000. I like that they're bringing the importance of money back to pro wrestling. They did it on Raw with Bronson Reed helping the Miz get his cash back and Bronson getting his pay. Now they did it with the $300,000 battle royal. I remember a time where there was prize purses in wrestling, whether they were always a work, but if you won the title, it was the title in $10,000 or $25,000 for beating Harley Race and getting the 10 pounds of gold. It was the idea that pro wrestling was prize fighting. I mean, you think Kevin Owens, they constantly refer to Kevin Owens as the prize fighter, but they never talk about the prizes he gets for fighting. In combat sports, you have your money to show, your money to win. There was prize fighting, boxing, MMA, whatever it may be. You're fighting for the money. I would like to see a wrestling promotion make that part of the promotion. Tell us what the purses are. Make it matter. It is for title matches. If you get the title, you're getting the title and $25,000, $50,000, $100,000. Make it like these guys are paint the picture of these guys winning wealth as opposed to a prop, and make it matter, make it meaningful. If you can't build everything around the title having lore and history and people have been working for this promotion's title, I give so many indie shows that you can't tell that story. It's nobody's boyhood dream to win the East Coast Fazoli Spaghetti and Meatball Championship of Jersey, or it's Cleveland's Little Caesars lightweight title. Nobody's dreamt of winning that. Attach money to these things. It could be a thing kind of regularly. Each month you're having a big money match. They call it's. They say those things. They talk about big money matches and these kind of things in pro wrestling, but they never really create a big money match. A $300,000 battle royal, that's a big money match. It's a lot of money. I thought it was cool to have Team Top Flight win it. I've talked about before, seeing Darius Martin and Dante Martin perform live is really kind of crazy to see that these guys are as athletic as they are, and the agility that they have, the height they can go off the ropes at, and just the speed at which they move. It's kind of crazy to take in live. If you have an opportunity, I strongly encourage you to go check those guys out. If AEW comes to your town and Team Top Flight's on the card, you owe it to yourself as a wrestling fan to go and check it out. It's really kind of crazy. Them and Lucha Bros are some of the craziest performers to see live because it's just amazing what they do physically. I do like that they had those guys go over in that. It's going to build toward them versus Blackpool Combat Club next week. Kind of touch on that in a second, but they eliminated Claudio. So we had Hangman Page interfere in that and take out Mox, but you're going to give Team Top Flight, some showcasing with Blackpool Combat Club. It's great to see two guys who are essentially AEW homegrown talent doing something big. And you're seeing that a lot in AEW right now. You're seeing a lot of their champions are their guys. MJF is their guy. Yeah, he did indie stuff. He did MLW, but he's an AEW talent. He's not a guy who came in from somewhere else who felt like he should have something, maybe not. Who knows what these stories are, but I'll circle back to that. We had Eddie Kingston and Ortiz challenge the House of Black to a match. Malachi said that it will happen in the future and hinted that Ortiz may not be loyal to Eddie Kingston. It's just cool to see Eddie get some TV time. Him and Ortiz have been doing stuff on Dark. For whatever reason, they've been on Dark. I mean, there's not enough TV for everybody, but Eddie was such a key player for a good chunk of the year and certainly through like 2021. Certainly pandemic era AEW, Eddie Kingston was such an important guy. And to see him ended up on Dark, I feel like it's not utilizing his talent to its fullest potential. We had the TBS Women's Champion Jade Cargill defeating Vert Vixen. I don't know what the point of the TBS Women's Championship is. I just don't. I don't know who it's booked for. I don't know. Cargill's still like super green from anything I've seen. There's been so many things of just not great. It's not a knock, but I don't know. A mid-card women's title in a division that's kind of treated like a mid-card division anyway doesn't really make a hell of a lot of sense to have those two titles. Like, I get it, people want it, but I don't get who it's booked for to just keep having her dominance going and going and going because I personally don't know anyone who's like a legitimate fan. Like, there's people who say they're fans of stuff because you're supposed to say you're a fan of something, I guess. But I just don't. It's not booked for me. Not a knock. It's just not for me. Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal defeated Billy Gunn and Anthony Bowens. Caster called Satnam Singh the not-so-great Khali during his freestyle. Pretty funny. Satnam Singh he's a giant dude, but he's just not, I don't know. I'm not sure. I hope Tony didn't pay him a lot of money. I hope his contract's not like enormous. Like, I don't know, kind of in the same ballpark as Anthony Ogogo. I think that was a project that kind of fell flat too. I think there was a lot. I think it kind of brings me back to that reference about guys who maybe feel like they should be in a spot in AEW and aren't. I think there's been a lot of projects in AEW that have fallen flat. That brings me, it's going to kind of be a bit of a spiral here with my ADHD brain. It kind of brings me to Dynamite. I thought Dynamite was a good show. Ricky Starks, Jericho starting things off. Pretty good segment there. I thought the Elite Death Triangle matchup was good. A lot of fun. Kenny pulling out the broom, being the cleaner. Good stuff. Christmas tree, kind of pointless, but it was funny they work it in. The Elite get the victory, which I assume they will get the victory in the next match, which is a falls count anywhere, to get us to the ladder match. I will assume that the Elite lose the ladder match, and there's some speculation as to what could cause the Elite to lose the ladder match. One of the biggest, kind of craziest rumors that I kind of hope is actually true, maybe, is that Punk cost the Elite the Trios titles. Ladder match, Punk is the one doing the interference, or potentially FTR doing it for Punk. Punk still, from everything that seems to be out there, Punk is still contracted to AEW. He recently put on his Instagram story him backstage with FTR, probably an old photo, but there is a chance that they've mended everything. When there's money involved, people can kind of get past their differences, right? I think that Punk really did a lot for AEW. I'll be the first one to say maybe the guy was a bit of a cancer in the locker room, and maybe the new generation of wrestlers in the locker room are beyond the antics of a CM Punk, potentially. I don't know. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not going to be that guy who kind of speaks like he knows some shit whenever he don't know some shit. I just read the same stuff everybody else does and try to, figure out things, I guess, maybe. So that just makes shit up, too. I don't know. I'm a wrestling fan. I like a good work. But I think that'd be a cool way to bring him back, I guess, if that's the way it's going to go. I think that TV for AEW is pretty compelling with Punk there. They did a lot of good stories with Punk. I think all his programs were really compelling, and it was good stuff to watch. And it was kind of must-see. And right now, not much of what they're doing is must-see. I still enjoy it, but I'm a wrestling nerd. So, I don't know. I thought the MJF, they did a segment from last week of MJF's promo backstage. He ran off from Bryan Danielson. Really good, but it's MJF with a camera from his face. Samoa Joe, good promo. Whenever Joe talks, it's always believable. His promos always believe it. We kind of want to just get straight to kind of the part that really, you guys, everybody knows what happens. So I want to talk kind of the Keith Lee Swerve Strickland thing. It's worth a mention that as I've seen the promos leading up to the face-to-face between Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, that is Rick Ross who is doing the mediating. And I believe I read it 15 different times, and I read it as Jim Ross because nothing in my brain made me think that Rick Ross was going to be mediating some kind of face-off between Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Why? I don't really know. I think because Rick Ross doesn't register with my brain because Rick Ross isn't even Rick Ross. It makes sense for Rick Ross, the rapper, to be involved in pro wrestling because Rick Ross, the rapper, is a complete work. He's working a gimmick. He's not Rick Ross. He's not Freeway Ricky. This has been covered by tons of people. Rogan had a whole spiel on it, which is what opened my eyes up to it. And I think it's crazy that a guy perpetuated a persona in the world of hip-hop of a person who was incarcerated and kind of led people on the idea that he was him. So if you were Googling Rick Ross, you would find all this information about a notorious drug dealer. And assuming that was the rapper, it's not even the same damn guy. Then you throw him into AEW and skip a ton of shit about the guy's life. Whatever. He refers to Keith Lee as a big mother effer, which somehow is the thing that spreads all across all social media. It's the biggest thing of the damn show. Kind of tells you a little bit about how must-see AEW's programming is at the moment, where just a guy dropping the MF bomb on TV is the takeaway of your wrestling program. A non-wrestler that the crowd didn't care about at all. That crowd could have cared less that Rick Ross was in the ring, and I bet every one of them would have given their shirt to have Jim Ross be the guy doing it. I don't know who's in charge of these celebrity tie-ins to AEW, but whoever it is seems to not understand the wrestling demo because I don't think anybody cared that it was Rick Ross. I know I personally didn't. Gave me something to talk about here, but it could have been anyone else. Anybody else on the planet. It would have had as much impact as it being Rick Ross. Now, maybe Swerve just likes Rick Ross because Swerve's a rapper and that's who he wanted involved. But from a fan's perspective, man, they seem to not care at all. It was just flat. Then to have the, misstep of the Swerve telling Keith Lee that he needs to have eyes in the back of his head. And it literally took Rick Ross doing this for Keith to turn around, and then the attack happens. And what are they calling the group now? Because we had New Brock, that Parker Bordeaux guy, however you say his last name. I'm sure they'll change it. He'll be Big Pete next week. So they have Big Bill already. They'll give him some kind of Vince McMahon type of name change that doesn't make any sense and everyone hates, but not many people want to call AEW out on it. But I mean, they're probably going to do it. And big dude with all the tattoos on his face, who they never even named. They didn't even have anything to give us an idea of what to call the guy on the program. The whole segment really sucked. Other than the cinder block thing, which was a cool spot, but I don't know. It all just fell really flat. It didn't seem like the live crowd liked it. I want to like Baby Brock. I'll call him that because dude's on Wrestling for Life. That's what they were calling him. I'll call him Baby Brock. Parker Boudreaux. I want to like the guy because I think he's got a lot of potential. He's very big, very athletic. The constant temper tantrum and between everything he does, unnecessary. Somebody probably needs to coach him along with that. But he's super new to wrestling. A little bit of time in NXT and the Performance Center. A little bit of time on Dark. You got a lot of time to mold this kid. But my issue is whoever's producing these things and putting them together and booking it. What was that segment supposed to be? Their mogul adjacent, mogul affiliate. Did I even write it down? What was on their shirts? I didn't even write it down. So no one's gonna buy that shirt. Like, you're taking a guy who's breaking apart from Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland in an attempt to make him look strong. You give him run-in buddies. He doesn't need them. He's very talented. Swerve Strickland's a very good wrestler. You could have just done this feud without creating yet another faction. That's probably going to be completely opposite of what it's presented as in the beginning. I wouldn't be surprised if we never see Rick Ross on TV ever again. So them being mogul affiliated won't make any sense in 2 months if you didn't catch this past episode of Dynamite, much like how the Firm being mercenaries just thrown it away. They just took it, just crumbled it up and threw it away. These guys are working on their own private agendas, nothing even as a faction. AEW kicked off with being so many factions and it all made sense and you could have so many feuds, to being a company with so many factions that don't make any sense. I'm going to rest confidently that no one has ever bought The Firm t-shirt. No one's going to buy the Mogul affiliated t-shirt. Like, stop. If there's not going to be something coherent to go along with these factions, let's just stop doing them. AEW. Tony Khan, you don't have to have nothing but factions because I think you have run out of good ideas for factions. If things happen organically in the story, cool. Stop making things up just to create another faction and have another t-shirt on the website. Like, wrestling fans don't need Rick Ross in the soup. It just doesn't need to be there. Especially to deliver a terrible segment. That segment was just bad. Bad. I hate to be negative, but I watched it and all I could think is, what is this? We do have, sorry, I just rambled, sorry. I got an updated card for next week's Dynamite. It's their New Year's Smash. It will be Tay Mello and Anna Jay versus Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale. We're at the Blackpool Combat Club, as I mentioned. Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli versus Top Flight. Bryan Danielson versus Ethan Page. We'll have the World Trios match number 6, Falls Count Anywhere of the Best of 7 series. And then we're going to have ROH TV Champ Samoa Joe versus Wardlow. And this is for the TNT Championship. It's not for the ROH Championship. I kind of don't think Wardlow should go over. You're going to put 2 belts on Joe. May as well let him run like that for a minute. It's not like you're going to have him drop that TNT title to Wardlow and then just never be on AEW TV again because he's going to go and defend the ROH title. Could be a good time to bring Miro back, I guess. Put on Wardlow, have Miro come back and feud with Wardlow. There's so much talk right now about Miro and him allegedly not wanting to put people over and lose because he's presented some creative that he didn't like. And I think it's funny how, like, wrestling journalists and podcasters like myself, people like to jump on the idea that wrestlers don't want to lose. I feel like in the current state of pro wrestling, it's probably not a factor. I think guys don't think it really matters. It's not like it's affecting the paycheck. They're getting paid the same amount whether they win or lose. Why would they care? I think whenever they're presented with something that may be hurting their stock overall or their character overall and they don't see the logic behind it, I think that kind of makes sense. If you're someone who in AEW guys are given a lot of creative freedom to get themselves over and build something, and remember you came in with a name like a Miro, you came in with notoriety, and then out the gate he was given terrible creative in AEW. The gamer thing, I'm not sure if that was his idea or whoever greenlit that. It wasn't good. None of us like Slim Shady Miro with the bleach blonde hair talking about video games. Like, as he became the Redeemer, I feel like that was probably his thing, like God's favorite champion, and I feel like that's probably him. And that was really good, and so good through 2021. A lot of stuff with Miro, and then he got injured, and they didn't really have anything. They brought him back briefly, and then he was gone. They did a video package, and then nothing. And it's that he was presented with something that he didn't want to do. It doesn't really mean that he was presented to put someone over and he didn't want to put him over. It just could have been an entire program they didn't see him coming out positively in it. So I kind of get why he wouldn't do it. And I understand that a lot of people feel like, well, you should have to do it, whatever. Well, he's an independent contractor. And if he's looking at his future, he wants to keep his name meaning something. It's always been a thing in wrestling whenever you were leaving a territory, you did the job on the way out. Then WWE, as people were coming to the end of their contracts, it was to bury them on their way out, make sure they are devalued. MMA does the exact same thing. Dana White and the UFC give guys who are at the end of their contract and don't plan to renew it fights that they don't think they can win that'll make them look really bad. They try to do it to Nate Diaz. They want guys to go out losing so they're devalued everywhere else. And then they can kind of shit on them in a lot of ways. They can kind of just continue to devalue them because they're not there anymore and they were never any good. So I get if you're a guy like Miro and you want to make sure your stock is high all the time, that you don't want to do something. It's not that I'm refusing to lose. He just didn't want to do a program that was offered to him, and he has the right to be that way. He's a performer. This is his art. If he's given an idea creatively that doesn't work for him, it's okay for him to not do it. I hope that they find something to bring him back. The guy's very talented, and I don't think he's had an opportunity to kind of show everything he can do in AEW. I think we could get something different than Rusev. I think we could get something even slightly different than the Redeemer that we've already seen. I just think it has to be the right thing for the guy, and I can't fault him for wanting to be able to just give his all to something. And if he's presented with something that he can't do that with, I understand why he wouldn't want to do whatever was given to him to do. That's it for me today, guys. Again, it's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas from me and Mark here at Don't Say the F Word podcast. Anyone who's tuned into the show this year, new to podcasting, new to this, lifelong wrestling fan, but new to this kind of a thing. I appreciate anyone who's checked it out. Check us out on social media at Don't Say the F Word podcast, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The Don't Say the F Word podcast on YouTube. We are on Spotify. You can catch the video podcast there and on YouTube. You got the audio version on Spotify and Google Podcasts as well. Guys, we've had a great 2022 in pro wrestling. Still got another week left before it's going to be one of the coolest matches of the year with John Cena coming back next week. We have a Best of Raw on Monday. I don't know, may look to do a little something with that. Kind of talk about what I think were the best moments of Raw, maybe before the show. I don't know. Don't know when I have time to fit in. Next week, we do have some interviews set up. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships, Jeremy the Pitbull Smith should be joining us on the show some point next week. And we're looking to get some more interviews going, guys. Again, thank you. Please like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends about the show. We appreciate you. Have a Merry Christmas.